Okay, this is Councilmember Jay Schenirer, and we're here Wednesday afternoon. This is our weekly time when we can talk about what's going on in the city and have some of our city leaders with us. Today we have Ms. Jackie Rose, who's going to join us. Let me just say a couple things before we get started. I usually try to do a recap of the previous council meeting last night, although we didn't have one, so I don't have much to say on that one. But I will say we have two meetings scheduled for the coming weeks. One is on the 30th of June, where we'll do a lot of year-end wrap-up. But then I think very importantly, on July 1st, we'll be holding a special meeting that will be talking about the mayor's police reform proposal and what we should do with the police as we move forward. We'll also have a few other items on the agenda, but that will be the focus of it. So I am here, as I said, with Miss Jackie Rose, one of my idols, woman who has probably done as much for the community and cares as much about kids as anyone in the region of Sacramento. So Jackie, welcome. And maybe we could start off. No, thank you for being here and taking your time. We really appreciate it. Maybe you could start off real quickly. Just give us a little background on who you are. I don't think until we know each other's stories, we can ever really work together. So a very quick 2 or 3 minute bio of how you got to where you are today would be terrific.
Sure. As Jay just mentioned, my name is Jackie Rose. I am the founder and CEO of Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center, out here serving South Sacramento in District 7 and in District 8. Our agency runs after school programs in Sac City Unified. We run the BCLC program in Meadowview, as well as the Hill in the Hood program in Meadowview, and a whole litany of other services. And one of our main focuses is making sure that, we leave no rock unturned when it comes to collaboration with every provider that's doing a service, so we can make sure that our families are connected. The other thing that I oftentimes make sure that we are doing is that when we're working with young people, that we just don't work with young people. I believe that you cannot work with young people without working with their families. It has to be a holistic approach. And so I'm a longtime native of Sacramento. I grew up in North Sacramento and Del Paso Heights. I went to Grant High School, graduated from Grant High School, went to Sac State, and actually have been in this community for over all my life, but have worked in just about every neighborhood here in Sacramento, from Oak Park to Strawberry Manor to Del Paso Heights to Alkali Flat. I actually worked for 30 years with the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency as a planner in a lot of those neighborhoods when we were working on redevelopment efforts. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Thank you. A lot of experience there. I think, Jackie, we've probably known each other, I'm thinking 30 years now.
30 years.
30 years, and probably worked with my wife before that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, Jackie, maybe these are really hard times. They're crazy times, and unprecedented is a word that most people use. I think it's a good one. What are you seeing? Well, two things. First, you said you're working in District 7 and 8, and not everyone might know the geography of those. Could you just talk very briefly about what's the geography of the two districts?
Well, the geography of Meadowview is Meadowview Road down to Florin Road. It encompasses Burbank. We also run the after school program there at Burbank. And all of those schools and all of that area of Meadowview, as well as going all the way down to Florin Road, along the corridor of the Parkway neighborhood. We also run a lot of things in we actually work with a lot of families in District 7 around the Woodbine area. We work with Woodbine Elementary School over there with the principal, Chase Tafoya. And so that kind of encompasses a lot of our area. Our agency also works at 2 low-income housing apartments in District 8, Phoenix Park Apartments, which is along Franklin and Florin, and Providence Place Apartment, that's along Mack and Center Parkway. So all of that area over there, and we basically don't turn anyone away. it doesn't, we run the Black Child Legacy campaign, but we take all families into that campaign and make sure that their needs are met. And so it's just really important that when we all live in these neighborhoods together, all of us have to be lifted up together. And so that's really important for me. So all of those kids and all of those families are very important in both of those districts.
Yeah. This is where we kind of date ourselves, because I worked with Chase's mom when I was on the school board, and she was a principal. I'm forgetting at a few places.
Bacon.
At Fern Bacon, but then she also went to Hiram Johnson for a little while.
She did. She sure did.
And then was an assistant superintendent.
Absolutely.
So again, this has been such a hard time for our young people in Sacramento. And I think that I want to get to this a little later, but I think the council and others are turning more attention to the status of mental health issues for young people. But tell us what you're seeing in the neighborhoods where you're working right now. How are young people faring?
I think that, during this whole time when COVID-19 actually hit, we run 5 after-school programs in District 7 and 8. And so, one of the things that, we found is that our kids are extremely depressed. We tried, we were really successful because I believe also that you cannot work with people without relationships. And my staff had a really good relationship with these young people. So calling them up and getting them on the phone, and parents reaching out and telling us when a kid basically was sleeping all day, wasn't coming out of the room, wasn't getting on the Chromebook, interfacing with Google Classroom. We were able to go in and kind of convince that young person to do things otherwise, and just check in with them on their social and emotional the social and emotional piece that is tied to that. Because certainly, we're expecting them to get on Google Classroom and interface with a teacher.
Uh-oh. So Jackie froze for a second. Hopefully we'll have her back in just a minute here. Working with technology is always fun. We could talk a little bit as we're waiting for her. Oh, there you go. Whoops. What I started to say is, we have a lot going on with our school districts over the summer. We put $2 million in to create some partnerships with school districts, and I know contracts were just signed with Sac City Unified, with Natomas, and also with Elk Grove, where we'll be working in kind of a hybrid situation, online and in the classroom for 3 to 6 weeks. There you are.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
We lost you.
No problem.
Yeah, but go ahead. We lost you as you were talking about the families.
Yeah, and so, we've been in pretty close communication with our families on a regular basis. Talking to them almost daily. Every staff person who had a classroom in our after school program was tasked with checking in and making sure that all those kids on their roster was checked on. And we assisted the district in finding a lot of kids that they weren't able to find out how they were actually doing. And so, and then families had a lot of, needs, food needs, basic needs. They had a lot of needs that, we were able to reach out to them and make sure some of those needs were met. So I just think that, we got to really consider that we do. And we're getting ready to gear up and run Freedom School at John Steele for 8 weeks, for 6 weeks, and at Phoenix Park Apartments. But we'll be doing that virtually. So, that summer learning loss is huge. I'm not talking about just what happened with COVID, but now we're in the summer, so that summer learning loss is going to be huge for a lot of our kids who are behind anyway. So we're trying to fill in those gaps and just really trying to make sure that all of the needs are met.
Okay. Jackie, maybe I think the Freedom Schools are just wonderful, wonderful programs. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what that entails.
Sure. We're running Freedom School for 6 weeks for 150 kids. And we were able to secure some outside funding to get those things done. And so that is it's actually a reading program, an integrated reading program that takes the kids through a morning exercise where we get them energized through a Harambe exercise. And then at that point, we allow them to come in and really do some things that are around books, that are culturally relevant books. And then in the afternoon, we have activities for those kids. But it's all around loving, caring adults being part of this whole plan. And these are college students that come in and run this program. They introduce the books, they read the books. We're going to be doing all of that virtually this time. So we're testing it out for the first time. Hopefully it works, because then we can use it during the school year.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about being able to offer this to a lot of those kids who were kind of left behind anyway during the school year. And we'll be able to step in and make sure that they get some supports.
And doing this so much virtually, Jackie, has there been a problem with devices or the connectivity of the kids that you'll be working with?
You know, the district, along with, I believe, the city's help, was able to put in the Wi-Fi buses.
Right.
So there's a Wi-Fi bus at John Steele. There's a Wi-Fi bus at Phoenix Park. Those are the two areas that I'm going to be running Freedom School. So I'm excited about that. But we were also able, with the district's help, to sign those families up through Comcast and get them some free services. And they have come to me and told me that has helped their families out tremendously, because they really wanted their kids on Google Classroom, but they just didn't have the resources or the means to actually tie into the Wi-Fi efforts.
Oh, that's great. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Comcast for doing that. It's very inexpensive internet. It's not a long-term solution, but I think it helps us get through the summer, certainly.
Absolutely. It's really going to help us in Freedom School, because it will cover our 6 weeks that we're doing. And all of those families got signed up with Comcast. So we're excited about that.
No, that's great. That's great. So what I was saying, Jackie, you were frozen for a little bit. I was talking a little bit about the $2 million that the city put in as a match. We've now signed agreements with Sac City Unified, with Elk Grove, and with Natomas to partner on summer programs. I think there'll be a hybrid between online learning and also in-person learning, 3 to 6 week programs, depending on the district and what they had set up or what they were thinking about anyways. Besides having a safe, positive place for young people to be during this summer, one of, I think, the really big advantages will be that we'll be experimenting with online learning and learning about it, so that when school starts in the fall, hopefully the districts will hit the ground running. There's a lot of professional development for teachers. Yes. How has it been on the Freedom Schools, kind of ramping up with your staff to understand how to use those technology?
Well, you know, just like those teachers who I've been in contact with, they've talked about their challenges to me, but my staff has had some challenges. Some of them are, you know, I've got a lot of millennials and Gen X's on my staff, so they know these computer systems a lot better than us old schoolers. And so in regards to that, they've been able to catch on to the technology. CDF, who actually we run Freedom School through, the model that we actually have, actually did a lot of the virtual training of our staff on social emotional learning, what's going on in the world in terms of, you know, race. All of the books that we're going to have this summer is all around all of that, the social elements that's going on in the world, even some COVID-19 books that will be able to educate some of our kids about what COVID-19 is. Because a lot of our kids hear it, but they don't know what it is. Yeah. And so one of the things that, you know, I will just say that I will be able to hit the ground running in August when we start our after school programs, because my staff will be able to go through this exercise, because they've been actually training for the last 2 weeks. And they've been taken through a series of exercises. They've had to create some websites. They've had to do some innovative and creative things to try to make sure that we have the attention of these young people, because it's really hard to compete with a PS4 and some of these other elements that kids would rather get on. But I don't think that, I think that we're at a good advantage to mix the academic with some of the fun things. I think that, you know, we got to be able to entertain. This is entertainment type group of young people. but we also are going to have to do some disguised learning and put a little learning in there at the same time. So I think I'm really excited about the 20 young people that are going to be rolling out Freedom School in South Sacramento this summer, and really being able to train the rest of my staff during the fall to come in and kind of, because we don't really know, Jay, whether or not we're going to be in the same position in
Right.
August. And I'm hoping that we're not, and that we have some element of some, interaction as people. But at this point, it just appears, based on the news and what we're going through, that things aren't getting better. Gets better for a minute, and then it goes south on us again. So we just have to prepare ourselves that we have to figure out a different way of getting the education to our kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess two things. One is, can I call you next time I need some tech support?
Absolutely. I got some young people on my staff that every time I need to, one was in here a minute ago showing me how to get on with you today. So, absolutely. If you need tech support, they are the people for the job. And, I look at what's going on in the world right now, and the young people are the ones that's leading the charge. And, I have to just say that I am just so proud of them, because, we've been at this for a minute. And they have taken it to a next level in all types of areas, and they're speaking up, and they're taking a leadership role and telling us what they want. And I think that we simply need to listen.
Yeah, that's great. Youth voice has really emerged in a lot of ways.
Yes.
It's been terrific. So let me go to another place. We have some pretty severe gang problems going on right now. As you and I talked before we started here, we've had, I think, 55 shootings in the last 30 days, 8 homicides. A lot of young people have been involved, young adults and kids who are really kids, 14, 15-year-olds. I think the city has been pretty good over the last couple of years trying to do more for young people. I mean, I've certainly been involved in that fight, as you have.
Right.
I think we're getting to a much better place about providing safe places for kids to be, about engaging young people, listening to them. But we're certainly not reaching all of the population that needs to be reached here. And we can, whether we call them opportunity youth or at-risk kids, we have a lot of young people who have fallen through the cracks here. And I'm hoping we could talk a little bit about what we should be doing that we're not doing now. I mean, we can roll out a lot of programs at our community centers and things like that. We've got the pop-ups. We did free ride, free transportation for which will continue. So a lot of pieces to that puzzle. We've got a mental health peer-to-peer support program that we'll be rolling out next fall, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but what else should we be doing that we're not doing now? How do we reach these young people?
We actually are one of 6 CILs that have not only a Black child.
Say what a CIL is.
Community incubator.
Yeah.
So we are a community incubator here in Meadowview, and so there's 6 others, one in Del Paso, Arden Arcade, Oak Park, Foothill Farms, North Highlands, and Valley High. And so, all of us work collectively together, collaboratively across neighborhoods to make sure that one of the populations that, we kind of know that is out there, that, we do pop-ups and we do a lot of things with young people. And I certainly have done it over the years, but that most at-risk, high-risk population isn't the population that we've kind of missed the boat in regards to how we serve them, what do we do when they come in our space, and what do we need to do? And more specifically, I just don't believe in serving them. Jay, we got to start with these families. We got to start with parents. We got to be able to go into those households, and we got to be the trusted messenger that is in there talking about the services that are available. How can we interface with your kids? How can we turn this thing around? I talked to you before we got on this phone about one of them that, I've been working with for 3 years. I actually had him in my program since he was 6. And so, my thing is that we got to work with the head of the households. There has to be an element of not just working with kids. We got to work with whole families. And as I talk about working with whole families, we have to make sure that we do that because there's siblings in these families that are going to pick up and repeat the same thing that older siblings are doing. And so we got to get around some of those kinds of things. My heart is really broken right now in regards to where our city is, and how young people are engaged with some of these violent efforts. But never in my years of doing this work will I give up on a young person. I will make sure that we don't leave any rock unturned to make sure that they're serviced. And we give them an opportunity, even when they make mistakes, to be able to come back and redeem themselves and do something differently. But I don't have all the answers on this high risk, at risk population, but it's just, being there, working with those families, making sure that we address their immediate needs and their long range needs, and really just make sure that there's spaces that they can come into, whether it be in the group or on an individual level, that we actually serve them on those types of levels.
So I usually end with this question, but I want to throw it in here now. Help me out and give me some advice here. If we switched roles for a couple of days and you were at the council meeting on either the 30th or the 1st, what would you do if you were the council person?
Whoa. That's a tough question because I would never want to be in that position. Man, that's a tough question. I would just say that I would have to lead with my heart. I would have to lead with my heart and my instincts on what is the right thing to do for this city and the people who are in it. And to really look at, Jay, it's really, we're living in some times where we're dealing with a global pandemic, we're dealing with a racial pandemic, and then in our city we're dealing with a gang war. Yeah. We're in unheard times in this city and in the world. And so I think that everyone that sits on that council has a tough job. And those of us that are working in these communities at the grassroots level have tough jobs as well. And all of us have to be able to understand each other's role and be empathetic and compassionate about those roles. And I really would have to sit there and really listen to understand what the tough decisions that you guys have to make for a city with so many things going on at once would be difficult for me to even fathom. It's hard. That's all I can say is that it's hard.
You think about it, you got that number. Yeah. Well, I think you brought up a really important point, and I've thought a lot about this. We do know we need to understand each other. We need to listen to each other. We need to hear each other's stories. Those are the kind of courageous conversations that sometimes go on in some places. But how do we go to scale with that? I think we have a wonderful city. I mean, I love Sacramento. I've said this many times. When bad things happen, people stand up. We have a lot of leadership, not just political leadership, but we have a lot of leadership in our communities. I think we do need to reach a little deeper. There are a lot of potential leaders or leaders who don't engage it with the system, and we need to figure out how to not necessarily bring them in, but have those conversations as well. If you had resources, and here's an interesting piece of COVID, and I didn't do this, but each council district will get $50,000 to deal with something. And what I want to do is kind of promote those courageous conversations among people. I think that the long-term benefit of establishing those relationships is worth it, to be honest. I'm not quite sure how to do that, and I'm really looking for advice from our constituents, my constituents in my district, but throughout the city, of if you had $50,000 to set up that conversation, what would that look like, and how would you do it? It's another tough question for you.
It is a tough question, and one of the things that we do here all the time with our young people is, and I think that you're doing it with your mental health pieces, having these listening sessions where we're coming together and really talking. And in fact, I'm on a panel with a group of teachers right now. And there's a group of African-American teachers, and there's a group of Hispanic and Caucasian teachers who are having this courageous conversation, and they invited me to come to the table. And I think that one of the things that came out of that, and we've been doing this for the last 3 weeks, and one of the things that came out of that is that it was just like you, when you started this conversation with me, I needed to tell you about me. And you need to tell me about you, because I don't think we know each other. I don't think we know each other's stories. I don't think we know each other's background. By the time I left that Zoom last week, I was able to be, I was able to know the people that were on that Zoom in a different way. I didn't see them as a teacher. I didn't see them as a vice principal. I didn't see them as a principal. This was somebody that was a mother, a father, a person that liked baseball, a person that liked football like me. But, you know, and we're more alike than we are different. And that's what I got out of that. We were more alike than we were different. So, you know, I think that we need to have those courageous conversations in a listening session type setting where we're doing more listening than talking. Because I think we talk too much, as our kids always tell us. You're talking too much. You're talking too much. And so we do need to listen more and come to a conclusion and be empathetic and compassionate about the stories.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can enlist your help as we think about that. And
I would love to.
Okay, that would be
and
great.
I think that, your wife is one that is one of the best listeners I ever met. She will come in and listen and take in. And then there's a lot of times I didn't even realize she heard everything I said. And by the time the next week she'll call and said, "You said this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did say that. I didn't know you heard that."
Yeah.
So we need to make sure she's at the table.
Absolutely. All right, Jackie, I want to thank you for this half hour for really talking with us and listening. This is great. I love working with you and really so appreciate what you do for your community and for the city as a whole. You are a true leader here. Let me say that next week, our guest is going to be Peter Bielenson, County Health Director, who's going to talk to us a little bit about COVID-19, what's going on. And we will ask him about what's going on in specific neighborhoods, as well as the city as a whole. So what we should be doing there, same questions. So Jackie, thanks very much. I think we're going to here, and I will pass on what the shout out you gave to Bina. So I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for the invite.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.